Hi, this will be a video tutorial series on how to model, UV map, and texture a prop for a game engine. This first video will discuss how to model using polygonal tools to then lead to the UV mapping video, and then we will finalize this with a texture video. So we're going to use Autodesk Maya to model and UV map, and then to come back and finalize how the material and textures are back applied, and then we're going to use Substance Painter to create the textures. Alright, so we're going to start with a cube, and what I'm going to model here is a basic pirate's chest, primarily like a wooden chest here. Alright, so I'm going to add some subdivisions to break this up a little more. Do 6 and 6 there. Actually, let's flop it around this way. So we do it this way, and it's a little bit wider. Do 6 and 4. There we go. Okay, so that'll be a good enough start to get the rough shape. From the side view, I'm going to kind of scale things down. That up. So this is the top of the chest that's rounded. So I'm just using move, rotate, and scale with vertices and edges. I'm going to select this kind of edge ring right here and choose connect. We'll add a couple more edge rings in here with a connect, do 2 segments. Then we'll scale this out some. Move this up a little more. There you go, that's pretty good. Alright, so that'll be a good start. I'll take some of my edge loops and scale them out. So I'm going to create like a trim shape for this. I'll take this one, we'll move this one up. So that'll be the trim there. So I'm just trying to create a good starting point before I start extruding forms out. That one down there. Alright, with these 2 loops, maybe I can do bevel, so I can put 2 loops instead of 3, 2 loops instead of 1 there. There you go, so that's going to be another kind of wooden frame. There you go. Okay, so then on the sides here, this middle line is going to be my center of the chest where the top and the bottom would meet. We're going to be doing a chest that's completely closed, but we want to give the indication that it could open. So from the side view, I'm going to take these and kind of scale these out some. There you go, so that creates the frame there. And then maybe I'll just remove the selection, scale those back in a little bit so it's even. Maybe just make a couple adjustments to some of the smaller vertices here. Alright, there we go. So maybe I'll make this loop, or not this loop, but these 2 edges here on either side. I'll kind of move that up. And that'll be kind of the frame at the top there. I could do the other side, this one right here. Like these 2, so I can pull this down for a better frame maybe. Looks alright. Alright, so that builds some basic frame pieces. So then I'm going to select all of my frame sections, and I'm doing this by selecting one face, holding down Shift and double clicking on the face above that. That selects a ring of faces. Okay. Okay, I don't want those though. Make sure those corner ones are selected. Alright, so we'll just make sure we got everything selected that we want. All of my frame lines. I'm going to turn my grid on and off there. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, so with all of those selected, we're going to extrude those faces out. So we're going to hit the extrude tool. We'll do a thickness of 0.15. The reason I'm using thickness instead of local translate, if I do local translate, it's going to kind of skew and round the corners. So instead, if I do thickness, keeps the corners angular. There you go. So what that did is create kind of a frame, and then the wooden planks would be inside of that. Looks like a pretty good chest so far. Alright, next thing we want to do is create what looks like the difference between the top and the bottom. But this is going to be one full completed chest instead of one that does open. So I'm going to use the bevel tool on that edge. Let's do segments to 2. And put our fraction down much lower to 0.2, 0.05. That'll work. Alright, maybe something even lower, 0.02. Okay. Alright, make sure that loop goes all the way around, which it does. We're good. Then I'm going to zoom in and select that middle edge all the way around. And then if I hit 4 to go into wireframe mode, I'm going to get my scale tool. And I'm going to scale that in a little bit. Maybe create a little bit more even of a space there. So from a side view, it looks like there is like a thickness to it. Okay. That'll create some weird like shading that's going on here. So all I have to do is select those edges, so those 3 edge loops all the way around, and go up here to Mesh Display, Harden Edge. So see that automatically corrected that shading issue that we have going on. Alright, so the base for the chest is done. Now what we're going to do is build handles and maybe the lock area as well. So let's do chest base. Alright, so for the handles are going to go on the side here. I'm going to start with the torus. So here's a torus. Move it up here so maybe we can see it a little easier. And it's going to kind of cut in here for what the handle would be held on to or held on with. So for a torus, I'm going to increase or decrease the section radius so it's smaller. Maybe let's rotate this 90 degrees. And we just need to scale this down some. So this is going to be like a ring, a vertical ring. That's going to be, sitting on some kind of metal plate inside of this loop there. So we'll kind of align it like that. So then I'm going to duplicate this and we'll rotate this back. Let's do 0 and 0. There you go. And this is going to be a much bigger ring. So this is the actual handle here. So maybe this needs to be out here more. We'll go back and correct that later. There you go. So this is going to be the handle that's going to kind of drape down, fall down here. So something to think about is how round this handle is. This is alright. This is a 20 by 20 subdivision. So perhaps I don't need it to be this big. I can come in here and with the default one, instead of 20 by 20, let's try a 16 by 16, 12 by 12. That one's alright. That would be somewhat angular. And let's go to Mesh Display Soften Edge. So it softens all those edges there. And then now if I duplicate, rotate that 90 degrees there. and scale that up. Now I have one that doesn't have as many polygons to it. Okay. So for the ring for the handle, what I can do is kind of delete half of that. And then on my edge loops there, make sure I just have those selected. And come over here to the modeling toolkit and extrude. Get the move tool and move that back so that this is going to be kind of connected to some kind of metal bar piece, something like that. So my ring, that might change when I do that extrude, some of the smoothing groups or the soften and harden edges. So I can go back to object mode, mesh display, soften edge. There you go. So that'll work. So that's going to be on either side. Now I need some kind of like base plate thing that's going to be used to hold this in some. Scale it out a little bit. Okay, there we go. So maybe this is a little bit more decorative. Create some, let's see, more subdivisions here. So we'll do 6 so that we can get an even line. There we go. So technically this would be down a little bit. So just trying to create some more little detail here. Okay, so this could be much smaller. And I'm just doing some scaling to try to get some interesting forms. Maybe I'll do this loop and I'll bevel this. There we go. Maybe this loop will be beveled again. There we go. Something just to create, some kind of interesting shape for the handle to hold on to. All right. So what I wanted to show is that this is just going to be a part of this chest, but there's going to be pieces up that will never be seen, which is these back faces. So I'm going to go in here and just delete the faces that I will never see, which is just this flat shape there. So if I hit the delete key, basically it's not a full enclosed shape, but this is going to be up against the wall or the frame there. So I don't need to actually have extraneous faces that won't ever be used. All right, so this is the handle holder there, something like that. And then this is the handle itself. There we go. All right, so now maybe we can refine this a little bit. We don't need to be that far out. We can take some of this, kind of move it in. There you go. Then this can go kind of back in there. That looks pretty good. All right, so this is the handle. I don't know, handle frame, something like that. Handle base, base section. That sounds good. Base section. Okay. All right, so now I need to duplicate this and put it on the other side. Okay. So there's a lot of ways to do this, but I'm just going to manually kind of rotate each one of these all the way around. So let's hold down the J key. Let's go back a little bit. There you go. So if I hold down the J key, that snaps. There you go. Now I just need to kind of position everything on this side. There you go. You can be more precise than this, but I'm just looking to get an overall shape that matches over here. Okay, there you go. All right, so maybe not do a lock, but we'll come over here and do the kind of front side of it. So I'm going to duplicate these two parts, And then we will hold down the J key and rotate, try to rotate horizontally. And then we'll rotate horizontally with this one. And this is going to be kind of the middle. So I'm going to turn my wireframe on so I can see where that center line is. Pretty good. Alright, there we go. So maybe this one's a little smaller. Just kind of scale it down a little bit. This is where the lock would go. So in essence, this would kind of be down here. So actually, let's duplicate. Put it down here. Don't need that one up there. All right, so there's kind of where the middle flap would go. Last object we're going to need is just the I guess piece that goes around that. That actually has a hinge or whatnot. Although we need to do hinges, which should take too long. All right, there we go. So there's that. All right, so that's just the pretty basic form. Maybe we're selecting all the edges and beveling all of those slightly, add a little bit of detail to it. And then now we need to cut out some forms here. So we'll do connect and hit enter. And so this is going to be the area that kind of opens up. So we have a lock. Okay, then we'll do the same thing here, connect. Scale a little bit. And then I can delete the front and back of that. I'm going to pull this out so we can see. There you go. And create a bridge hole there. So if I do, actually if I do whole loop and whole loop of that hole, either side, and do bridge, creates that bridge gapped hole there. Okay. So I always go to edit mesh merge when I'm doing bridge or combine or anything. There we go. So now we have, maybe we can flatten that a little more. We'll flap that locks it. Okay. All right, so we're getting there, almost done. What we have to do next is just build a hinge, one little hinge that will go there, and then hinges for the back of it to a little realism. I'm going to use a cylinder here. Move it out so we can see it. So I'm going to build a base hinge shape, and then we'll come back and position it where we need it to be. We don't need a hinge to have 20 sides to it, so we're just going to do 8. And we'll keep it simple there. I'm going to take the caps, convert them into quads by taking every other edge on the triangle caps of a cylinder and deleting those. So now we have 4 sides on this entire shape. So a hinge is a longer cylindrical shape with at least 3 different parts to it. So we'll just keep it simple with 3 parts. I'm going to select these edges and we'll do connect. We'll do 2 segments, so that creates 1, 2, 3 parts here. All right, so we have that. Okay, so we really need to break apart this shape into 3 different forms. Okay, so we can, well, two different forms rather. So we need to duplicate this object, so duplicate, and with one duplicated version, I'm going to delete the inside faces, and then with the original version, I'm going to delete the outside faces. So basically I have an inside ring and then two outside sections. Okay. So what I need to do is fill in the sides so like there's no holes, right? Looks like a full shape there. I'm gonna hit Alt H, whoops, not Windows, Alt H, Alt H. That has everything else but this object. Okay. And I can go up to Mesh Fill Hole and then use Multi-Cut tool to create quads on the ends again. So Mesh Fill Hole is a good tool for this. And I'm using a crosshair approach to create quads. So that's going to be my centerpiece. Control Shift H unhides everything else. Then my other section, I'm going to hit Alt H on. And we'll do Mesh Fill Hole. Get the Multi-Cut tool. Connect all this back up again. There you go. Alright, Control Shift H. So that way I have one hidden section and another hidden section. The outer pieces, the inner pieces. Alright, so then what we need is kind of some flat pieces for this hinge to I guess, pull off of, right? So something like this, just a cube that the cylindrical hinge section is actually connected to. So I can kind of move this in and kind of maybe snap that to that section. And then maybe it's not as big. Maybe it's something like this going this way. And then a duplicated one. And perhaps they're kind of pulled out some. Here you go. So what we want is a hinge that when this one rotates, it rotates this piece. So if I select the hinge and then the second piece over here, hit P key, P for parent. Whoop. Now we got some weird skewing going on. Okay, so I did it in the wrong order. So basically I want the cube piece to move with the hinge piece here. So select the cube and then shift select the hinge section and hit P for parent. Same other side, cube and then shift select the outer piece of the hinge and hit P for parent. So basically when I rotate this, it'll rotate the hinge from that side. When I rotate this, it'll rotate the hinge from this side. So now we can say hinge middle one, hinge outer one. This one's like my flap. There you go. Hinge middle cube, and then this is going to be the hinge outer cube. Okay, so we got our hinge. If I scale, there might be some things that are going on weirdly, so what I can do is group these together. So if first off, let's go to Edit, Delete by Type History. Okay, and then I'm gonna select. Actually, it should work well if I just select just the outer pieces. There you go. So you can also group things together. But what should work is if I just rotate this and scale this, it should be fine. So this is going to be on the back side. So if I hold down the J key and rotate, and then this is really large, so we're just going to scale this down. And this is going to be the hinge on the back. kind of in between, and then flush up against the side here. So let's scale this down again. There we go. And we really need two, so maybe we'll put one right there. We'll duplicate this, put the other one on the opposite side, and that just kind of gives it a little bit more believability there with the position, and make it look like it's an actual chest that can open. Also need a little bit of this same hinge-like structure for the flap right up here. So we're going to, maybe this one's smaller. Even smaller. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll kind of even this up a little. To give this section like a natural hinge as well. Something like that. Okay, maybe this top one we're going to flatten this out a little bit. There you go. And then maybe this piece is like welded to or fashioned to it as well. There you go, that works. So that gives it a little bit more realistic kind of approach here. Alright, so we do have a lot of pieces with this object here that we're going to then take the texturing and, well, before that, UV mapping as well. Could also add some basic rivets as well to kind of finalize pirate chest look, and then we will pause this video, go into UV mapping. So this will be our rivet. We don't need but just 8 sides to this, and I'm going to take every other edge on the top here and delete that out. So we have 4 sides. I don't need the bottom faces there, so I'm going to delete those out. And then in vertex mode, so I'm going to move this up to make it look like there's a rivet there. Now I don't actually have to create the bolt or screw part of it. But basically this is going to be copied over to like major areas to break up the space, but also kind of give it a natural look, like as if it was kind of handcrafted with metal pieces in it. There you go. So we can duplicate this to all of our major areas. There you go. We can duplicate this up. There you go. Kind of add some more detail there. Maybe we will take all of those on that side, duplicate, and move them to the back. Actually, let's hold down the J key and rotate that all the way around. There we go. Maybe we can pull some also to this side as well. All right, there we go. So just to fill the space out more. All right, duplicate, and we will rotate these around on this side. All right, maybe that'll be it. So we have a lot of different parts here, but we've done a lot of duplicated pieces. We have our base chest. To kind of finalize modeling, I'm going to drag select everything and go to edit, delete by type history. But I do have a lot of duplicated pieces, and I'm going to keep them separate so that it's going to be easier for me to UV map. So that'll wrap up this video on modeling a prop. So we have a chest prop here that we're going to, in the next video, talk about how to UV map.